I'll start by asking a question. How many of us have one source of income? Mikono juu. If your hand is down, then you are somewhere. You're doing okay. But if you raised up your hand, then maybe we should start diversifying, financial diversification. And looking at our country right now, a lot of companies are laying out people, you know? And it's very unfortunate because most of us end up having no source of income. Then what happens after that? Frustration, and that is why we're having even high cases of suicide in our country, because someone cannot just provide for themselves because their income was cut short instantly. Well, today we're talking about financial diversification. And I'm very happy because we have in studio a debt management and life coach. And he's also an author, Mr. Roy Okonji. How are you doing, sir?
I'm fine, thank you, and thank you for having me.
Yes. Asante sana. So before we dive into this discussion, I want us to look at some of the statistics kidogo, back in the 1990s, and then right now, the rate of employment in our country and what is really leading to people being laid out. And then after that, we'll dive into the discussion. But for now, have a look at this.
Okay.
After reaching a peak of 6.2% during 1995 to 1996, the multiple job holding rate began to recede. By the mid-2000s, the rate had declined to 5.2% and remained close to that level from 2006 to 2009. In 2010, the multiple job holding rate decreased to 4.9% and has remained at 4.9% or 5% from 2010 to 2017. With people being unable to hold several jobs simultaneously, is it possible then to diversify your income to reduce risks once well-being after retirement? This is according to a retirement confidence report released by a local pension administrator. More investment professionals agree that although it does not guarantee against loss, diversification is the most important component of reaching long-range financial goals while minimizing risk.
Diversification is the way to go, and that is what we are talking about today. And we just want to understand, how can we diversify when it comes to our finances? So Mr. Roy Okonji will help us understand this. So I want us to first define diversification. Yeah.
All right. Diversification is an interesting term in terms of money, because it's a term that takes on different faces when you're talking about different things.
Yeah.
But for the sake of today, because it has its relevance in the world of investment, it has its relevance in what we are talking about today, income, right? So I want to define it based on our conversation today. And basically, diversification refers to the spread of the risk, right? In other words, expanding your sources of income, the spectrum of your earning. You've been earning from one source. There is high risk that if someone touches that source, if something happens, like the statistics that we've just seen, then your life is endangered. Your peace of mind is affected. A lot of things around you are affected, right? So then when we talk about diversification, we're beginning to say that instead of concentrating on one source of income, is it possible that you can begin to have different taps pouring into your jar?
All right.
Right? And that makes it better because the jar is going to fill fast. Maybe before we go far, allow me to say a few things to introduce the conversation.
Okay.
The truth that we can't change is that money is powerful, and money calls shots. Money runs the show.
Yeah.
We all want money. We all need money.
Yes, sure.
Right? Now, everyone needs money in plenty. Some of them, it's a wish. Others, they have purposed, right? So many of us, almost everyone wants money in plenty. But there appears to be just a small number of those who seem to have mastered the little secrets in the world of money.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Now, there is something I teach that I call the wealth creation cycle. Because everyone dreams to have an abundance of financial resources.
Yeah,
what we may call financial wealth.
Yes.
That is true, isn't it? Now, but we have not mastered what happens for wealth to begin to happen, right? So there is something called the wealth creation cycle. And in this cycle, I propose, or rather I present to us, that for wealth to happen, money needs to continually walk through 3 stages.
Okay.
The first stage is what I call the money acquisition and management stage.
Okay.
I call them boxes, the box. Now, this is the box that has all of us who are doing something to get income.
To get money.
Whether it is business, whether it is employment, whatever it is, you're waking up in the morning to do something and you're getting money. So this is the largest box in terms of accommodating all of us.
Yes.
The choices you make in this box determine whether you play in the other 2 boxes or not. It is in this box where you need to master how to manage your money. It is in this box where if you blunder, you start borrowing for consumption.
Okay.
And it is in this box where if you get it right, then we move to the second stage.
Wow.
Now, the second box is what I call the money retention box.
So
The
you
argument
have acquired.
here, yes,
so you're retained.
you have acquired. Manage it in such a way that it will allow you to retain a portion of it. All right? And I like saying that if you must judge human beings, it is not right to judge. But if you're pushed to the corner to judge people financially, don't judge them by how much they earn.
Yeah.
Judge them by how much they're able to retain.
Wow.
Right? Because there's someone who earns $1 million and they spend 1.1 every month.
So they're left with the negative, the minus, you know?
There's another person who earns 20K and they're able to put aside 5K every month. In the world of wealth creation and in the fullness of time, the 20K guy with consistency will be far much better than the 1M guy.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So money retention. And we begin to ask, why are you retaining money? You need to know why you are retaining money. You will be retaining money perhaps for a rainy day. Right? And we retain money initially through a process of savings.
Okay.
Okay? And then you also retain money for multiplication as a seed. The truth that we are rarely told when we get employed or when we start our businesses is that the money we get from active engagements is supposed to feed us, to sustain us, as well as form part of a seed that will be planted for multiplication.
And
Because,
this is where, if I'm getting you right, this is where investments come in.
Yes.
All right.
Now, so this is box 2. You have retained. There is nothing fancy in just sitting on money. To look at your money and just be happy that I have saved money. Go to your account every day and check and see that your money is still there.
Yes.
There's nothing interesting because 1, it is being hit by inflation. And 2, there is temptation. If something happens,
you will use it.
You will use that money.
Yes.
And therefore, you need now to send this money to work for you.
Okay.
Convert this money into a servant. Money is the best servant ever. Money never gets tired. Money does not go on leave. Money has no mood swings.
That's funny, you know.
Right?
Because if you compare it to people, then they're totally different, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the third box is when we are sending money to multiply, is the box of money multiplication.
Wow.
Now, we multiply money through a process of investments. Right? So you've retained, you now send it. You go and acquire some asset. You send it somewhere.
Okay.
As you send it there, you expect returns from where you've sent it. So it's now working for you. Whether you sleep or not, as long as you send it in a better place, it's working for you.
Wow.
Now you will get returns. So it's usually a triangle. So from the third box, we expect returns. They go to pour into the first box. You get?
I get.
So if the first box was only receiving salary, now it has a second source, return from your investment.
Okay.
Right? And we'll be looking at those strategies and options as we talk.
Yeah.
Now, until you master this, because this is not supposed to be a one-day affair. It's supposed to be continuous, right? You earn money, you manage it well, you retain part of it. After you retain to a certain level that you had targeted, send it to work for you, you get more returns. So when returns come, the first box bulges.
Okay.
That means in the next cycle, you're able to save more if you continue managing your money well.
Yep.
Because again, there's another temptation that when you get more income, some people get tempted, yes, to expand their livelihood, their standard of living, right? So now, that means you can save more. That means you can invest more. You get more returns.
Yes.
And the cycle continues.
Wow, I get that. So when this cycle is put into action,
yes,
and that is where now diversification now comes in.
So now, that is the cycle. Let's come back to diversification. If you have one source of income, if you look at reality on the ground, you begin to realize that your life is a bit threatened. Your ability to retain is threatened every day.
Yeah.
For one, prices of commodities keep going up without asking you whether you have a pay rise or not. That means all factors kept constant. If you've been able to save 5K per month, if your salary does not increase, chances are high that after 2 or so years, you'll be saving 2.5.
Yeah.
Because there are other things that are beginning to eat into your ability to save.
Yeah.
Right? So the question is, do we continue this way with our ability to save shrinking? A day will come when we can't save.
Yeah.
A day will surely come when we can't actually sustain ourselves in the first box. Then we have to start borrowing for consumption.
Okay.
So to avoid this, that is where the discussion of diversification begins to come up.
Okay. All right. I understand. And let me just ask you this question. As a debt management and life coach, you know, that is how most of the people know you.
Yes.
Have you diversified yourself?
Wow. Good question. Good question. Now, I learned this thing a while ago. Some people understand my journey and why I love talking about the subject of debt.
Yeah.
I will not go into that. It's quite an interesting and long story. However, the long and short of it is that I have had my stint in the world of the trap of debt, been trapped in debt so heavily to the extent that I still say I'm still looking for my match. And at that point, I got to a level where I got awarded. I hold a trophy. I wish I came with it.
Yeah.
That I was given by Shylocks for being the most trustworthy borrower.
Wow.
Yes.
Yani you borrowed mpaka they gave you a trophy.
Yes. I've gotten to the lowest point of the trap of debt.
That's really interesting.
Yes. You know? and just awarding me for being the most trustworthy borrower and for continued business. So if you understand how Shylocks operate, for them to get to a point of saying, we need to recognize this guy, then you can only imagine how much business I had given them.
Yeah.
That was quite a lot. But the day I got the trophy, that was my turning point. That's when my eyes opened. That's when I started asking myself, you mean I'm getting awarded
for borrowing?
For borrowing, and not even from banks, from the other world.
Okay.
Right? And so that's when my interest in studying money and debt started coming up. And that's when I started getting conscious, reading books about money, and just getting to have an understanding. Is it possible that someone can live without borrowing for consumption?
Okay.
And I began to meet stories and realities of how that can be done. And one of the things that I read back in the day was that, and I think it's part of what I shared today with my followers, that a part of all I earn belongs to me for keeps. Right?
Yes.
Now, I had discovered myself, I'm an ex-banker. Right? So while at the bank, I had discovered my inspiration calling.
Okay.
And I started writing books while I was still at the bank. And as I was pursuing that passion, incidentally, I realized I had created another source of income, the income from the books.
Now you are an author.
Yes.
Okay.
Right? Back in the day. By God's grace, now I have 5 titles.
Wow.
Right? So that became another source. Right? And as we'll be discussing the other different sources, I'll be throwing in a thing or two because I don't want to say much about myself.
All right.
For obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. So you have pointed out on the issue of debt.
Yes.
And I'm just thinking to myself, you know, and these are some of the problems and challenges that come in when we fail to diversify.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, yes. When you fail to diversify, you put yourself on the line. Okay? If you're not able to manage your money, there are means if it can't sustain you from month to month, chances are high you'll be pushed into borrowing.
Yes.
For consumption. I like saying when you borrow to consume, you are telling the world two things. Number one is that you are not able to live within your means.
Okay.
And number two is that you are eating your tomorrow today. Okay? So that means if, like today is approaching end month, there are people by beginning of next month, by first, they're already borrowing on the account of the salary that is coming
at the end of
March. So they're already eating their tomorrow, yet the March salary is supposed to keep them up to the April salary. You get? So we get saying, nisot, when mine comes, nitakusot. You get?
Yeah.
And before we know it, we've borrowed so much, sometimes more than what we expect can handle.
Yeah.
And that is troublesome. So when you have not diversified, you're on the line. The likelihood of you getting lured into borrowing for consumption is high.
Okay.
Right? Then you're constantly live in fear. Yes. What if something happens?
Yeah.
We've seen the statistics. The reality of jobs falling away is so much with us.
Especially in our country.
Especially here. Right? And therefore, some people are already in that state of fear that what if our company is next? And today with social media, every time there is a hint, you will meet it on social media that company X is planning to send home X number of staff.
Yeah.
People who are there, if they only depended on that source, they'll already start getting into panic.
Okay.
Right?
And you have talked about that. Before we just go on, you've talked about the retrenchment issue, and
Yes,
it's
yes.
real in our country, you know.
True.
And just before this show, we talked to one Catherine Mutune, who was retrenched at some point in her life,
Yes.
and she told us about her story and some of the challenges that she went through. Maybe we should take a listen to this and then come back to talk about some more challenges.
All right.
All right. Hello, Catherine.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, thank you. My name is Sarah.
Yes, Sarah.
I'm calling you from Family Media.
Yes.
Yes, we were talking earlier and you told me about how you were retrenched and the challenges that it came with.
Yeah.
Maybe, do you mind sharing a little bit about it?
One of the challenges of being retrenched is that you had gotten used to having a routine.
Okay.
Waking up to something every day without having to, like, go out of your way to plan. That is one of the challenges. And the other challenge is immediately you're retrenched at some point, you're not exactly comfortable telling people, hey, I don't have a job.
Okay.
Basically because people will maybe want to avoid you. They'll think you want to even borrow money even when you're not borrowing money.
Okay.
Or they'll think that you just want help from them, even when it's not the case.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And how long did it take you maybe for you to get to the next step and maybe pick up your pieces for another job?
It's around 4 months.
Ah, it took you 4 months.
Yeah, and for me it wasn't another job. For me it was self-employment.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
And do you think if you had another business during the time that you are working or during the time that you are employed, do you think things would be different?
Yeah, it would be better because you have something, number one, it keeps you busy, and then you're hoping for money from somewhere at the end of the day.
Okay.
But if you have one source of income, for a moment there, someone will experience a mental blackout.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing, Catherine.
Thank you, Sarah.
Okay. Have a good day.
Good day, too.
Well, clearly that is what happens when we find that there's only one source of income that we are depending on. And just like we were talking about with Mr. Roy,
Yes.
so she pointed out something,
Yes.
that if she had another source of income while she was employed,
Yes.
then things would be different, you know.
True. That is very true. And this is a message we can't overemphasize, that while you are employed, or even if you run your business, there is need to think about another source of income, because things are bound to happen, and things happen every other day. Even before you lose your job, a time comes, and if you listen to many people today, you'll be hearing complaints of the salary not being enough, living standards have gone up, and so many of such things. The other sources of income begin to give you a cushion early enough. Because when you lose a job, like she's mentioned, and beyond what she said, the repercussions, the effects of losing a job are far-reaching, because they even touch on the family unit. Right? They begin to affect children. They begin to affect how they school. Right? Perhaps they've been going to school because you've been able to pay courtesy of your salary. So now when the salary stops, that means it will affect them. It will affect the running of the home. And it has brought turmoil in some marriages, sadly, because they were not prepared to handle the situation. They were used to running the family affairs with the salary that they had, whether it was one person earning or both of them earning. And when one of the salaries is affected, then if they were not prepared psychologically, it brings a lot of other issues. If they will not adjust so fast, then it can cause a lot of trouble, even at the family level.
At the family level.
Yes.
All right. And now here I am, you know, and I'll use my example. I'm a presenter. What are some of the strategies that I need to have to make sure that I diversify my sources of income? Using my example.
Yes. Yeah. Super. To answer your question, the best I can do is to explain a few ways of making an extra income. And I will talk about the famous 7 ways, right? There is an income that is called the remuneration income.
That is the salary.
That is the salary. Those are the wages. That is what you earn for spending your time somewhere. Whether you are employed or you are a consultant, when I go to a company to consult for them, they will pay me for my time, for my skills, for my being there that time. So that is remuneration income, right? There is an income called the profit income. This is an income that you get after selling something at a value higher than the value you got it at. Okay? So you either bought something and sold it to someone else from 10 shillings to 15 and made 5 shillings.
That's the profit.
That is the profit. So then you make profit income. Then there is an income called the interest income. This is income that you earn for lending your money to someone else.
Okay?
You don't have to become a Shylock. If you have the skin for becoming a Shylock, you could give it a try. But the risks involved are at another level. But you lend your money to people in different ways. You can give your money to the bank, for example. There are people who save with the banks. There are people who will have fixed deposit accounts. And they've been promised at the end of the year, we pay you interest this much. There are people who save with the SACCOs. And they've been promised that we will pay you at the end of the year at this rate. That is interest income. Right? There is an income called a dividend income. This is an income that you earn for investing in another business. For buying shares from another business. Right? So today, if you chose to buy shares from companies listed on the stock market, so you buy shares of company X, and then at the end of the year, they pay out dividends depending on the profits that they made the previous year. So they'll announce and say, we are paying amount X per share. So depending on the shares you have, you will get your dividends. So that's another income. There is also another income that we call capital gain.
capital gain.
Yes.
Okay.
Capital gain is the income that you get for the appreciation in value of an asset that you own.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So you have shares, for example. You bought them at 10 shillings. If you don't sell them, at the end of the year, they'll pay you dividend.
Yeah.
But at that time, if the value has gone up from 10 to 15, the 5 is your capital gain.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Then there is rental income.
Mm-hmm.
This is the income that you get on giving out your asset for someone to use, and then they pay you periodically.
Okay.
Right? So you have land, for example, that is idle. Someone comes and tells you, I want to put up a car wash here. I'll be paying you rent at this rate per month.
Yeah.
Or you've constructed houses, rental houses, and you have tenants. They will pay you rental income.
Okay.
Right? So as they use your facilities, every agreed time, they'll be giving you rental income. Then lastly, we have royalties. Right?
Yeah.
This is the income we get for other people using our ideas, using our brands, right? So they will use our brands or they will use our products, and then we get a share.
Okay. Okay. I get your point.
All right? Of the incomes that they make, right? An example could be for books. If I write books, and there are people who come and say, we want to sell your books.
Yeah.
And I give them my books, and they go and sell. Or I give them the rights to reproduce my books in their country or wherever they are to sell. And then we make an agreement that for every book, I will be receiving this much. That is royalty income. There's also a case of franchise. If I have a brand, like locally, even the way we see KFC, if I want to put up my KFC, then I talk to them. I tell them I want to use your brand here, and they tell me the terms of engagement.
Yeah.
And if you use it, then we're gonna ask you to pay us this much every such agreed period.
Okay.
That is royalties. So having explained those 7, so we start to place you where you are. Now you are on remuneration income when you spend your time here.
Yes.
So you begin to ask yourself, how do I begin of these other 6 to make use of 1 or 2 or so many of them? Is it possible that I can make a profit income from any of them? I mean from anything that I can sell and make a profit. So you begin to ask yourself, based on your flexibility here, based on your knowledge on business, based on the resources around you, what is it that you can buy at a lower rate and sell at a profit, at a higher rate, and make a profit?
Okay.
So that begins to be the question that is in your mind when you're looking at making a profit income.
Okay.
If you think you don't have the muscle or the ability, the time to engage in profit generating ventures, then you can ask yourself, is it possible I can make interest income? Right?
Yeah.
Is it possible that the income you get here, you can begin to save a portion of it and put it in a place where after some time they will pay you interest on your money? So that becomes your other source of income. So in the event that you lose your first source, because then you need to be very consistent when you start engaging in the second or third or whatever other source of income, you need to be consistent. For example, you will not save in for 1 month 5,000 bob, and then you're told they will pay you 10% per annum, for example, and you sit pretty and wait.
And wait for that 5,000
How
to
much
gain
will
the
be 10% will be 500 at the end of a whole year. But when you make it a habit, so every month you're doing it, you're doing it, you're doing it, at the end of the year, you'll have earned some interest. If you don't have something to do with that interest immediately, bring it into the system again. Let the money enjoy the magic of compounding.
Yes.
All right? So if you had 5,000 at the end of the year, you start the other year with 5,000 500 and allow it to move as long as you're still working here and you can run yourself with the remaining amount of your income.
Yeah.
You will be so shocked that after a short while, a few years down the line, you have some money that you can actually look at, and when the thought of losing a job comes or crosses your mind, you are not as shaken.
Yeah, as someone who's not saved.
Who's not saved.
Yeah.
Right? Because you've had people say that when you depend on salary, you are one salary away from poverty.
Yeah.
Or one salary away from brokenness. So when people will be saying such, you will be smiling because you know what you've done in the background.
Yeah. You
can begin to ask yourself, is it possible then that if you cannot take part in interest earning investments, is it possible then you can invest in a place where you get dividends? Right? So that is the spectrum of the types of incomes that you will have.
Yeah.
So no one is limited. We like giving excuses, not reasons. You will hear people say, I don't have time. You'll hear people say, I'm exhausted. The money I earn is so little. In every lesson I give for money, I like starting by sharing certain realities of money. And one reality that I like talking about a lot is what I call, or rather, I like saying that there is no small money. Yes, there is no small money. That one we must get.
Yeah.
It is us human beings who give our money power, who define our money, who give our money the size that it has.
Yeah.
Money is an opinion, the opinion that we give it. What you call small, someone else is doing wonders with half of what you have.
Okay.
In the same environment, right? So it's a lot to do with our choices. It's a lot to do with how we plan ourselves than the size of the money that we have. And I like asking people, today if your HR came and asked you and told you that we're giving you power to determine how much you want us to pay you. So how much do you want us to pay you? You know, it is so easy to complain that they pay you little. But if they confronted you with that question,
that's a tough one.
Yes, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
It's a tough one because how much is enough?
Yes. There's no answer to that.
There is no answer to that. Some people will think 10 times, 100 times.
Yeah.
But money being what it is, even if they gave you 10 times or 100 times, if you maintain your mindset towards money, if you do not save, you do not invest what you save, you do not allow that cycle to keep running, and you only earn and use the money for consumption, the entire of it, truth is, even if they made it 100-fold, reality will catch up with you. It still will not be enough.
All right.
So, having said what we've said, that money is not, there is no small money, then we begin to appreciate the money that we have. We begin to ask ourselves, what can I do with what I have where I am? And I must mention here that another danger of one source of income is that if you are trapped in debt or if you are in debt, your ability to come out is affected. You will either take much longer or you might not come out entirely, depending on the level of your trapping in the trap of debt. Right? However, if you're not trapped and you're depending on one source, your chances of sliding there are high, as we explained, right? And therefore, if you understand early that there's no small money, you begin to be cautious. You begin to want to choose where your money goes. You begin to want to give names to your money. There is nothing as dangerous as money without a tag. Right?
Yes.
That your salary comes and you just start spending. So that money will answer to any call. If someone calls it a night out, you will go. The money will be used for a night out. So you must sit down there and determine, how do I want to use my money?
Is this where budgeting comes in?
Yes.
All right.
Because budgeting is a concept we can't run away from. All right? But I like saying this. Many people do not engage in budgeting because they think it has come to deny them certain things. That's not the essence of budgeting. Budgeting comes to introduce limits. The financial world is a limited world. You have to have boundaries. It's not an open-ended world. Otherwise, your salary would be open-ended. You would just be earning and earning and earning.
Yes.
But the fact that you don't just earn every other day, you have to wait until a certain day and earn a certain amount. You also have to sit down and dictate and say, I want my money to go this way, and this other way.
Okay. But before we dive back into this discussion, there's a question we asked. So how many sources of income do you have? And this is what some of us had to say.
What I can say right now is I have mainly 3 sources of income. First of all, of course, is salary income. And then there is what I would call investment income and other side hustles. The investment income is mainly through buying of shares, so receiving dividends, interest on the same investments, and other side hustles like consulting. Yeah, that is, those are the main 3 sources of income that I have. That the main one is, of course, the salary. Yeah.
The sources of income I have so far is just a salary.
I'm just employed. So when you have other income, maybe from self-employed or something else, yeah, you are independent. Even if you are jobless, you can just continue with your business. But when you are depending being employed, my friend, it's not secure at all.
Yes, I have multiple. The importance of having multiple sources of income is because there are those that give you immediate returns, like daily income, and there are those that give you long-term returns. Like, for example, if I need to probably supply goods to a client on credit, I'll be paid after 3 months or 6 months. But you see, at the same time, I need to survive. So I need something that brings daily income. So the one source of income gives me a daily income that helps me in my running of the business and personal upkeep. And the other one is definitely also for the business, but it pays on long term.
Well, clearly, a lot of people have taken into consideration the fact that we need to have diverse income. So, Mr. Roy Okonji, you had what some of the guys were saying from the streets, you know, and the first guy really looked informed, you know. Paka yeye anajua kuna investment.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is some of the importance of knowing that you need to diversify.
Actually, that is, and that's why I'm glad that we are having this conversation, and just to encourage us and you guys to continue with this, because it starts from the point of information. There are so many people who would be hearing this for the first time, but this information has been here for ages, right? So it starts with information. Once you get informed, it's also still not enough to learn.
Yeah.
You have to practice what you have learned, right?
Okay.
So at least let us learn. Let us develop the culture and the urge to want to learn about money. There is a lot we can learn about money. A lot. Those of us teaching about money, I keep saying I haven't even scratched the surface of what there is to be learned about money.
Yeah.
So let's develop the habit of just wanting to have the information. Then beyond the information, let's begin to practice.
To practice what we have learned. Okay.
And start from where you are with what you have. Do not procrastinate. Do not wait and say, let me wait for my income to get to this point. Because now where I am, I cannot be able to save. Even if I save, it will be so little. And so you sit and wait for your income to balloon.
To grow big.
You'll be so shocked that income refuses to abide by your wishes.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay?
Refuses.
It refuses to abide by those wishes.
Okay.
Again, if you choose to start saving, please save before you spend. Don't spend hoping that you will save what will remain.
Okay.
Again, income refuses to remain for you to save it.
Save before you spend.
Yes, you save before you spend.
All right. And someone would ask, what are some of these types of assets that I can invest in? You know, we talked about now the types of profit and income and all
incomes.
that. But now the assets. What are these types?
Because now this brings us to investment, where you are sending your money to get some assets to work for you and bring you returns. Largely, we have about 3 types of investment options. We have what we call the ownership investments.
Okay.
This is where you own an asset. These ones will include real estate, because if you're buying, if it's land or building, you are owning it. This one include stocks. When you buy shares of company X, you own part of that company.
You become a shareholder.
You become a shareholder.
Yep.
These ones include businesses. You can also choose to own a business, right? So that is ownership. So as you think about how to invest, there are people who say, I want to own. So those are some of the options under the ownership kinds of assets. Then we have the lending assets.
Okay.
This is where you have money and you don't want to own something, but you want to give this money to someone else to use it and then pay you interest.
Takes us back to interest.
Yes.
Okay.
So now the lending options will give you interest. And this is where you take your money to the bank for the bank to trade with it and pay you interest, right?
Yeah.
This is where, for example, you invest with the government and buy bonds. You're lending money to the government.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? For the government to use your money whichever
However
way they want.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they give you returns. And for the government, we're talking about the bonds, short-term and long-term. And so you have to understand. And then thirdly, we have the money market. Right? This is where you're pulling money, different people, and trusting this money with investment gurus.
Okay.
To invest it for you at a commission. This is where we begin to talk about unit trusts, right? And the entire money market options that we have, the equity funds, the balanced funds, and what have you.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
So you have money, you don't have the knowledge of how to invest it, you don't want to invest directly. And so there are experts who will take the money on your behalf, invest it, and then they will bring you returns, agreed returns, and then deduct a commission for their service.
Okay.
So largely, those will be the different types of assets where you can send your money.
Okay. And I want us to look at just a minute. Just hold on to that.
Yes.
We have Karen, that is, who's saying that the speaker has really done justice. Good conversation there. She has broken down the issue of how to spend in the money cycle in a very informative way. Thank you so much. We have Jerry from Pangani, Masimbugwa. Thank you so much for tuning in today. You are learning a lot. We also have someone who texted in, and this should be Lynette. And I was like, where can we follow that speaker? So in short, today people have really learned. And you talked about the real estate.
Yes.
And there's a lady who's texted in. Her name is Diana.
All right.
So here is her scenario. Sarah, I'm Diana. I earn 9,000. I want to invest in real estate. My money goes into rent, fare, food, donation, and tithe. Hizo ni tano.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And I'm 22 years old and afraid of making investment in property that might go under. You know, the con jobs.
Yes, yes.
Are there pro bono consultants who can help? Because she's 22, earning 9,000, and she wants to invest. And you remember you said there's no small money.
There's no small money.
Yeah?
There's no small money. Now, let me start with her. What she has asked has led me to make a clarification that is very important. Number one, do not be in a hurry to start investing.
Okay.
First of all, she has said she's 22. She's in the age bracket where we have energy and where we are daring and where we can try a lot of things.
Yes.
She has said she's earning 9K, right? If you're in a hurry to invest, you see, she's thinking about real estate. And the big question in her mind is, how do I make 9,000 on real estate?
Yeah.
And anyone looking at that would easily give up, because really, how then do you make 9,000 to be part of that?
Own a house.
Okay? And that's why I said you start from where you are and you begin to define options that are closest to you.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
When your income is still small, you are better off thinking about what else you can do to quickly multiply your income before you rush into certain forms of investment.
Okay.
Because just that we didn't have a lot of time, when you look at real estate, for example, you have to understand that real estate requires a lot of capital to get into it.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
But the good thing is it's not the only option that will bring you money. All right? Real estate comes carrying the likelihood of it holding a lot of your money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it begins to distribute returns. They begin to trickle in at a rate that sometimes does not amuse many people.
Okay.
So you must understand what you are getting into.
Okay.
And that's why I want to say, before you invest, there are two things you must consider. Number one, understand why you want to invest. Okay?
Understand
For instance, are you seeking to get income that will be monthly? Right? Are you seeking to invest for something that you will need in the next 10 years? Are you seeking to invest for education for your children? You must understand why you want to invest. When you answer the question why, it begins to sieve and drop certain forms of investment because they don't promise to answer your why. Then number two, look at your risk appetite.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
We have different risk profiles. Everyone has their own risk profile. I might be this guy who I can pick all my money, pour somewhere, burn my fingers, come back, look for more money and pour some other place. But there's someone else who says, I would rather get smaller returns and preserve my capital. We are different. So you must understand to what length are you willing to go to what length of risk are you willing to handle, to go. Now, she has asked about whether we have pro bono consultants and what have you. I may not tell whether we have pro bono consultants, but I can tell that information is out here. Like they say, when the student is ready, the teacher will always appear.
Wow.
All right?
Wow.
There are many pages, and for those who have asked where they can, what they can follow, on Facebook, Roy Okonji, dash inspiration and debt management. Okay? Roy Okonji, dash inspiration and debt management. On Twitter, Roy _Okonji. All right? Just follow. There are things I share there every day. Quotes, articles, audios, videos, every day. So if you want to learn, put yourself on the path of learning. Even if you don't have money that you would consider for consultation. There is a lot of information that begins to come when you put yourself on the path of information. Like our listeners today, our viewers today, they are already on the path of getting what we have shared here.
And we have Emily who's saying, thanks for giving out your knowledge. And she's really congratulating and now calling you the finance teacher. That's really interesting. We have 2 minutes. Just maybe you can talk to that person who thinks that it's too early for me to save and invest in just 2 minutes to help them maybe diversify their finances.
The right time to start is now. In my classes, I like sharing that I'm not this kind of person who loves regrets. But if there is one regret I ever make, if I'm pushed to the corner, is that I delayed to start investing for my retirement.
Wow.
When the message was sold to me when I was new in employment, I looked at that person. I was like, come on, give me time. Let me enjoy my money first. All right? And that's the thought of so many young people. And I like telling them that later on, I joined the scheme. And when I was quitting employment to now come and do this thing that I'm doing, I went to check my account. And I saw how it was, and I was like, I wish I started early.
I would be richer,
yes.
you know?
You know, some employers have promised you that if you contribute to this point, we are going to match. Some have said a shilling for a shilling. Others have said 1.5 for your shilling. Why don't you take that as a salary increment and dare them? They're telling you, try us. Yes, you save for your pension, this amount, we are going to match.
Double it.
We're going to double what you've put in. why can't you take them by their word and see? I want to finish by saying this. In the world of money, for you to go far, you must be willing, you must be ready and bold enough to make unpopular decisions.
Wow.
Unpopular decisions are decisions that do not follow the wind for the sake of following the wind. Do not do things just because your friends are doing them. Do not invest in something just because it is the in thing.
Okay.
As a rule of thumb, if you do not understand an investment, how it works, be hesitant in putting your money there. You must understand what they are going to do with your money. Because this is the question many people fail to ask, and they get into pyramid schemes, for example. Someone is promising you high returns, but it doesn't make sense. You don't sit to ask yourself, what are they going to do with my money that they will make enough money to give me and remain with, because it's their business, so they also need to remain with something. You must be willing to make unpopular decisions. Don't spend just because your friends are spending. Don't do things to please anyone. You have your own journey. Understand why you are on that journey and why you do the things that you do.
Okay.
Lastly, have a spirit of learning.
Have a spirit of learning.
Yes.
We'll finish there. I'm not even going to water that down, even a notch. Well, thank you so much, Roy Okonji, for coming today and being our finance teacher.
We thank God.
Well, and thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you learned a thing or two, because from today, I am going to take a bold step. So do not be afraid of taking that step. Thank you so much. My name is Sarah Otieno, and I will see you tomorrow.